Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today with this video we are going to discuss about the selection criteria for the Indian Institutes of Management who are going to participate in the IIM Common Admission Process 2025. So this year Indian Institute of Management Bodh Gaya is going to conduct the IIM CAP 2025 admission process. So if we consider the minimum CAT percentile required for all these 8 IIMs, then those are same. And on this basis only you will receive the shortlist call from this 8 IIMs, that is from the IIM CAP 2025. But the selection criteria for each IIM differ from one IIM to another IIM, and that only we are going to discuss with this single video. So if we consider the list of 8 IIMs that are going to participate in the IIM Common Admission Process 2025, then those are Indian Institute of Management Bodh Gaya, IIM Jammu, Kashipur, Nagpur, Ranchi, Sirmaur, Trichy and Udaipur. So these 8 IIMs are going to participate in the IIM CAT 2025 admission process. And if we consider the minimum CAT percentile required for the IIM CAP 2025 category wise, so for the general category it is 73 percentile in all the 3 sections and overall it is 94 percentile. And if we consider it for the EWS and NCOBC, it is 50 percentile in all the 3 sections and overall it is 77 percentile. For SC category, it is 44 percentile in all the 3 sections and overall it is 60 percentile. For ST and PWD, it is 25 percentile in the VRC and DILR, 30 percentile in the quantitative ability and overall it is 40 percentile. And on this basis of minimum CAT percentile, you will receive the call from the IIM CAP 2025 admission process, that is the calls from these 8 IIMs. Now if we consider the final selection criteria, so if we consider the Indian Institute of Management Kashipur, the weightage given to the various parameters in the final selection criteria, so in that 33% weightage is given to your CAT score. Then 25% weightage is given to the personal interview, 15% weightage is given to your academics, then 5% weightage is given to the professional qualification, that is CA, CS and ICWA. Then 12% weightage is given to the work experience, 4% weightage is given to your academic diversity, 6% weightage is given to the gender diversity. And on this basis, the composite score is calculated for the Indian Institute of Management Kashipur, and then the finally selected list of candidates is done. Then coming to the final selection criteria for the Indian Institute of Management Bodh Gaya. So in the Indian Institute of Management Bodh Gaya, 50% weightage is given to your CAT score, then 20% weightage is given to your personal interview and 30% weightage is given to the profile. So in that 14% weightage is given to the academic profile and 16% weightage is given to the work experience. If we consider the academic profile which has 14%, so in that 4% weightage is given to your class 10th marks. If you have 60% and above, so there are 4 points allotted for your 10th marks. Then for class 12, 4% weightage is given. Then for your graduation score, 4% weightage is given. Like that 14% weightage is given to the academic profile. Then if we consider the work experience, if you have the work experience of 12 months, for that there are 4 points. If your work experience is 18 months, for that there are 8 points. Like this way, if your work experience is this much, you can calculate your points for the Indian Institute of Management Bodh Gaya. And like this way, 16% weightage is given to the work experience. And if we consider the diversity, in that 4% weightage is given to your academic diversity and 2% weightage is given to the gender diversity. So these are the factors which are considered in the final selection criteria with the Indian Institute of Management Bodh Gaya for the composite score calculation. And then the finally selected list of candidates is done for the Indian Institute of Management Bodh Gaya. Now if we consider the selection criteria for the Indian Institute of Management Jammu, then in that 45% weightage is given to your CAT 2024 score, then 30% weightage is given to the personal interview, 10% weightage is given to the academic profile, 10% weightage is given to the work experience and 5% weightage is given to the diversity. If we consider the IIM Jammu admission criteria, then in that your class 10th and 12th marks have some weightage, and on the basis of the percentage there is some rating score. Like if your percentage are above 95 in the class 10th and 12th, for that there are 3 points. If it ranges in between 90 to 95, for that there are 2.5 points. And in the similar way, you can calculate your percentage rating for the class 10 and 12. Now if we consider the rating score for the graduation, then if your graduation percentage are more than 95, for that there are 4 points. If your graduation percentage ranges in between 90 to 95, for that there are 3 points. If it ranges in between 85 to 90, For that there are 2.5 points, and in this way you can calculate your rating score for the graduation. Then if we consider the rating score for the work experience, if your work experience ranges in between 12 to 18 months, for that there are 4 points. If it ranges in between 18 to 24 months, for that there are 7 points, and in the similar way, whatever your range of work experience is, you can calculate your rating score with the Indian Institute of Management, Jammu. Then if we consider the diversity, then Indian Institute of Management, Jammu have the gender diversity weightage of 5%. So if you are a female candidate, there is 5% weightage on the basis of the gender diversity. So this is the selection criteria for the Indian Institute of Management, Jammu. So these are all the factors which are considered in the final selection criteria, and on this basis the composite score is calculated, and then the finally selected list of candidates is done with the IIM Jammu. Now if we consider the final selection criteria with Indian Institute of Management, Nagpur, then in that 25% weightage is given to your personal interview, 50% weightage is given to the CAT score, then 5% weightage is given to the previous academic performance, 10% weightage is given to the work experience, and 10% weightage is given to the group discussion. So here if we consider, there is some rating score for the class 10th, 12th according to your percentage. So if your percentage are more than 90 in the class 10, for that there are 10 points. If it ranges in between 80 to 90, for that there are 9 points. Then if your percentage ranges in between 70 to 80, for that there are 5 points. In the similar way, you can calculate your rating score for the class 10. If we consider it for the class 12, then if your percentage are more than 90, for that there are 10 points. If it ranges in between 80 to 90, for that there are 9 points, and in this similar way you can calculate your rating score for the class 12. If we consider the rating score for the bachelor's degree, then if your percentage are more than 70, for that there are 10 points. If your percentage ranges in between 65 to 70, for that there are 9 points. In the similar way, you can calculate your rating score for the bachelor's degree. And in this way, these are all the factors which are considered in the final selection criteria with the Indian Institute of Management, Nagpur to calculate the composite score. And then the finally selected list of candidates is done. Then coming to the final selection criteria with the Indian Institute of Management, Sirmaur. So in that 45% weightage is given to your CAT score. Then 25% weightage is given to the personal interview score, 10% weightage is given to the academic performance, 10% weightage is given to the work experience, then 5% weightage is given to the academic diversity, and 5% weightage is given to the gender diversity. So these are all the parameters which are considered in the composite score calculation with the Indian Institute of Management, Sirmaur, and then the finally selected list of candidates is done with the IIM Sirmaur. Now if we consider the final selection criteria with the Indian Institute of Management, Trichy, then in that 50% weightage is given to your CAT score, then 25% weightage is given to the personal interview, then 10% weightage is given to the work experience, 5% weightage is given for the performance at undergraduate level, then 3% weightage is given for the performance in the class 12, then 2% weightage is given for the performance in class 10, and 5% weightage is given to the gender diversity. So these are all the factors which are considered in the composite score calculation with the Indian Institute of Management, Trichy. Then if we consider the final selection criteria with the Indian Institute of Management, Udaipur, so in that 60% weightage is given to your CAT 2024 score, then 15% weightage is given for the personal interview, and 25% weightage is given for the profile. So here if we consider the profile which has 25% weightage, so in that 9% weightage is given for the academic profile, 9% weightage is given for the work experience, and 7% weightage is given for the diversity. So if we consider the 9% weightage which is given to the academic profile, in that your class 10th marks will have 2% weightage, class 12th marks will have 2% weightage, your graduation will have 4% weightage, and if your background is from CA, CS, ICWA, for that there is 1% weightage. Now if we consider the rating score for the Indian Institute of Management, Udaipur for the class 10th, 12th and graduation according to your range of marks. So if your marks are above 92% in the class 10th and 12th, for that there are 2 points, and for the graduation, for that there are 4 points. If your range of marks are in between 88 to 92, for that there are 1.8 points for the class 10th and 12th, and for the graduation it is 3.6 points. In the similar way, you can calculate your rating score for the class 10th, 12th and graduation with the Indian Institute of Management, Udaipur according to your range of marks. Then there is some weightage on the basis of your work experience also. Like if your work experience ranges in between 7 to 12 months, for that there are 1.5 points. If it ranges in between 13 to 28 months, for that there are 3 points. If your work experience ranges in between 19 to 24 months, for that there are 5 points. In the similar way, you can see your range of months and calculate your rating score for the work experience with the Indian Institute of Management, Udaipur. Then if we consider the weightage for diversity, then there is 5% weightage which is given to the gender diversity. So these are all the factors which are considered in the composite score calculation with the Indian Institute of Management, Udaipur. Now if we consider the final selection criteria with the Indian Institute of Management, Ranchi, then in that 40% weightage is given to the CAT score, 30% weightage is given to the personal interview score, and 30% weightage is given to the profile. So if we consider the 30% weightage which is given to the profile, in that 13% weightage is given to the academic profile, 7% weightage is given for the work experience, 5% weightage is given for the academic diversity, and 5% weightage is given for the gender diversity. Then there is some rating score according to your range of marks in the class 10th, 12th and graduation. Like if we consider it for the class 10, if your percentage are more than 85%, for that there are 4 points. If it ranges in between 80 to 85%, for that there are 3 points. In the similar way, you can calculate your rating score with the Indian Institute of Management, Ranchi for the class 10 according to your range of marks. Now if we consider it for the class 12, if your percentage are 85% or more than that, for that there are 4 points. If it ranges in between 80 to 85%, for that there are 3 points. And in the similar way, you can calculate your rating score for the class 12 according to your range of marks. Then if we consider the rating score for the graduation, if your percentage are 85% or more than that, for that there are 5 points. If it is in between 80 to 85%, for that there are 4 points. And in the similar way, you can calculate your rating score for the graduation according to your range of marks. Then there is some rating score according to the work experience also. Like if your work experience ranges in between 7 to 12 months, for that there are 2 points. If it ranges in between 13 to 18 months, for that there are 5 points. And in the similar way, you can calculate your rating score for the work experience. Then in the selection criteria with the IIM Ranchi, 5% weightage is given to the academic diversity. So if your background is from the non-engineering, then at that time 5% weightage is given on the basis of the academic diversity. So these are the various parameters which are considered for the composite score calculation with the IIM Ranchi, and then the finally selected list of candidates is done. So this is all about the final selection criteria with all these 8 IIMs who are going to participate in the IIM CAP 2025 admission process. So if you have any doubts, any queries in this, you can just let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video.